Sagittarius, welcome to your weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast. This is for March 7th through the 13th of 2016. I'm Athen, and this is for Sidereal. If you are new to the channel, be sure to check out the link down below because the signs are different. All right, so Sagittarius, this week we got a lot of important aspects and the solar eclipse, which is taking place on Tuesday and Wednesday, making this the very transformational part of the year. And with this solar eclipse, it's part of the south node, right? We either have an eclipse with the north or south node. So with these, it's about releasing, and that's what the south node represents, is where we can come to acceptance in our life, which then leads to that spiritual liberation. So let's go and see where this is for you, because it's through that spiritual liberation we then move into that life path energy that much more healthfully. So the life path energy is shifting for you to go into the ninth house, which has been the north node, making its way into this part of your chart. So for the next 2 years, you've got this life path of pursuing what's possible in life, your adventurous spirit, the philosophical, the spiritual aspects of things, really having that big picture, open horizon perspective. Now, to do that in a healthy sense, we do have to come to peace with the south node energies and to bring these areas into balance. Now, this eclipse is going to be right on the cusp between your third and your fourth house, right in between Aquarius and Pisces. So I think it's going to be mostly pulling on the Aquarius side of it, though. So in terms of this is your third house. This is the house of communication. It's the house of everything practical. It's the house of your intelligence, your insight, reading, writing, sharing, communicating, everything that is either in your immediate environment or has to do with synergy in some sense. And that's synergy of the mind, and also synergy of interrelationships or communication in that sense. So this has been an area that's been very spiritual for you. You've had Neptune in this part of the chart, but now we've got all these fast-moving planets all going over this part, creating a lot of energy down here. So to move into that life path of the possible, it's about coming to terms with and accepting the practical. And that's been the focus lately with the sun here. So with the south node, it's all about acceptance, and it's through the acceptance of either your insights, of your mind, of your communication, of siblings, of peers, of socializing, whatever this particularly is for you personally. It's through that acceptance we come to that spiritual peace. And that's how we neutralize and balance out any over-under extremes with it. Over extreme might be overly concerned about figuring things out, having things practical, having things, organized or just tangible in that sense, or overthinking, that kind of stuff. Whatever it might be for you personally, it's through that acceptance that we come to the balancing point here. And it'll be through that balance of really accessing the healthy elements of healthy insight, healthy communication, healthy intelligence or thinking will be the foundation for this life path energy, which is again expanding you, opening your horizons. Now, there'll probably be a little bit of this fourth house too, which has been the area of releasing for the past 2 years, roughly, with the south node transiting this fourth house of yours. So this is the house of home, of family, of your past, of your roots, maybe even your health for some of you. So it's being aware of that also and accepting that also, maybe even doing some healing with that now that Chiron's making its way into this part of your chart. So it'll be through that you'll find that liberation, you'll find that healthy sense of expression pulling you into that life path. So let's go and see how this is building up this week, because that'll be Tuesday and Wednesday. Leading into that, we do have the sun sextiling up to Pluto coming off the previous weekend. So there could be this willingness to change, maybe some insight from the previous weekend. It's an easy aspect suggesting that it can be an opportunity for change. Again, maybe changing the way you express yourself with your ideas or whatnot. And this is really coming from the change that's been happening with you. And you could be changing from the previous weekend with Pluto in the first. But that's good fuel to this fire starting off this solar eclipse, which is good to kind of go within this early part of the week and reflect on a lot of these things. Now, leading into it as well, the sun is going to be opposing up to Jupiter, really suggesting the fact that not only with the nodes, but with this aspect, the importance of balance between the possible and practical, and the practical and what's possible, and really seeing them as one and the same thing. Because what is possible is practical. What is practical is possible. And when we have that perspective and we see it, however we do in that grounded earthly sense, and we unify these two areas, then that's when we have that healthy implementation, because Jupiter is a benefic, and so this could actually come across as quite positive, maybe buoyant, optimistic about these areas, probably in regards to what's possible. But to ground it and to keep it integrated, it's about remembering too that there are the daily things, there are this, the earthly side of things, the realistic side of things, if you will, right? And that's essentially what the third house is. So balance, integration, and applying the rational with the possible in that sense. Then Tuesday and Wednesday, the eclipse. And then after that, we got some sign changes, one of which is going to be the sun making its way into Pisces. So this is that shift for about the next month or so. More awareness, more insight, I think, about the home and family stuff, which we'll be going through a healing, at least in the emotional body or something like that with the sun over Chiron, but really helping you understand, not necessarily rationally, but internally, what are some of the healing things, the insecurities or doubts that you might have around the emotional body or around the past or around home, family, health, that can then be healed through that acceptance. So we got the insight there as we approach the weekend with that. And just all in all, for the next month or so, you can really gain a lot of energy, in fact, from spending time at home or with family, etc. Now, Venus is also changing signs. She's going into Aquarius. So what's interesting about this eclipse is that as it happens, Venus comes into the third house. And so you're starting to, I think at this point, understand the beauty or the enjoyment that can be had through either socializing or learning or reading or communicating, writing, reading, etc. And that's going to be for the next few weeks with Venus there, really enjoying that part of life, or can be. Now, Mars is shifting into Scorpio also midweek. And so this is the house for you, your 12th house of spirituality. And you've had Saturn here helping you really ground and discipline your spiritual self. Maybe it's whatever it is you could be taking seriously with that, like meditation or yoga or exercises or really relaxing into the unknown. But now Mars here really helps you build that chi, helps you build that energy through listening to your intuition, through going with the flow and having that alone and rest time. Now, as we approach the weekend, the sun will go over that Chiron. We're also going to have Mercury going over Neptune. So there could be this insight about this importance of having faith and trust about the everyday experiences, about the rational, the practical, and how the minds and the insights and all this really do come about from a higher source, from a divine source, if you will. That's one way of looking at Neptune in the third house. But in either case, if you are feeling a bit confused or uncertain around Thursday and Friday, the more open you are to having things unknown, particularly with the mind, or maybe those immediate things, then that can actually lead to a tremendous amount of spiritual freedom and a lightheartedness and enjoyment, a presence about the whole thing. Now, also leading towards the weekend, and probably strongest at the weekend and going into next week, we have a very nice aspect which is supporting this eclipse, which is Jupiter trining up to Pluto. So with all these changes that have been happening with your identity, with yourself, with your goals these past many years, now with Pluto trining your ruler Jupiter, although you're in a reflective sort of state more than likely, retrograde, in this ninth house about the life path and where you're headed and all this, maybe travel, whatever, there's this willingness to change, this willingness to transform, and that can be very powerful going into next week. Now, to top off the week, the last aspect will be on Friday, which will be the sun going over the south node as he makes his way into that fourth. So this is the awareness of, again, the emotional body, what's important to you on that internal level, the things you're sentimentally connected to, the people you're sentimentally connected to. And in that way, that awareness can actually help you gain even more insight of the spiritual variety or the emotional variety about what can be brought into balance with that so that you can, again, move into this life path that much more healthfully. All right, Sagittarius, so have an excellent week. Thanks for watching. If you guys have any questions, please let me know, and I'll see you all next week.